Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Lindsay and this is Waldorf Inspired Roots, where we share our Waldorf inspired homeschool journey and family adventures. Today's video will be part 2 of my series of videos sharing our Waldorf inspired 10th grade curriculum choices and resources. Today we will be covering the second American history main lesson block that my son will do this upcoming year, and it will cover primarily the Revolutionary War. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and share and say hello down in the comments. My son's first American history unit, which I have a video up already, and I will link it if I can figure out how to do that. It covered primarily colonial America, and so this being the second American history main lesson block that he's going to be doing throughout the year, will be primarily about the American Revolution, Revolutionary War, and it will take 4 weeks, and it won't be directly after his first American history main lesson block. We will be breaking it up, so there will be some other main lesson blocks in between, but he will do a total of 4 American history main lesson blocks throughout the year. And for each of those, he will be going through this book, which is called Everything You Need to Ace American History in One Big Fat Notebook. And this is a series of books. They have many subjects spanning middle school and high school. This one in particular is the Complete Middle School Study Guide. And even though my son is going to be in 10th grade next year, they do not have a high school version. However, because we do a Waldorf-inspired way of doing our homeschool, this book is still perfect because it will act as our template or our guideline throughout all of his main lesson blocks, so we know that we're covering the things that need to be covered. And this book does a really great job of touching on everything, making sure you know the things that are pertinent and that you need to know, but it does take out a lot of the fluff, which is good for my son. I explained in my last video, but I'll just touch on it here. My son does have a vocabulary recall delay, and he doesn't struggle with it as much now. He's overcome it for the most part. However, all that means is he has a little bit harder time retaining new vocab and new information. It takes him a little bit longer. He seems to do better when you kind of just give him the pertinent information, and then we can learn all of the, what I like to call fluff, in a fun and engaging way, which is an amazing way to learn anyways. So we try to pull in all the different types of learning styles. My son is a very auditory and visual and hands-on learner. Those are the ways that he tends to learn best. He's not a big fan of, text and reading, unless it's in an engaging and fun way. And so the way that we're going to use this book, I explained in the last video about American History 1, but basically when I'm going through any of the books, I am a huge fan of Post-it notes. And I will go through and break up the subject, into main lesson blocks based on how long it'll take, how long I want to spend on each main lesson block for this subject at a time before we, let it rest, and then, do a different subject, and then we'll come back to this later. So in American History 1, which will be his first main lesson block, and it's the video I already did, we kind of went over Native Americans, explorers, Christopher Columbus, slavery, Jamestown, 13 colonies, Mayflower, Pilgrims, Salem witch trials, pre-Revolutionary War, and Boston Tea Party. So in this main lesson block, We will revisit and just kind of the first day or two, we'll kind of review some of those things, but primarily the Boston Tea Party and the pre-Revolutionary War will be big things that we revisit, since that is leading into what this main lesson block will be covering. So for this main lesson block, we will be covering units 3 and 4 in this book, and it will cover the American Revolution, New Government and Constitution, Lewis and Clark, War of 1812, Industrial Revolution, Indian Removal Act and the Trail of Tears, Oregon Trail and the Mormon Trail, the Alamo, Mexican-American, and the Mexican-American War. And then, we'll go into the next ones. And the next videos I have coming out will be covering our 3rd and 4th American History main lesson blocks. So the last main lesson block for American History that I did a video on was for this section, which was units 1 and 2. So we're going to turn to American History 2, which is our second main lesson block, and it will cover units 3 and 4. Now, in case you haven't seen my other video, I just want to show you really quick. At the beginning of this book, it does give you a guide as far as how to use it, and it explains that anything highlighted in yellow are vocabulary words, anything highlighted in green are definitions, and anything in blue pen are important people, places, dates, and terms. And I'll just flip through some of this so that you can kind of see how it is set up. It is broken up into chapters. There's usually several chapters. They're pretty short chapters, but there are usually several chapters per unit. And so there's pictures. It does give a lot of information, but again, it does take out some of the fluff or the extra things. And at the end of each chapter, there is a check your knowledge section, and it will ask questions, and the answers are on the back. And the way that we use this for us is I will have this book in my hands, and I will orally ask him the question. I oftentimes don't really need the answers because we do this together during his main lesson time, but I will flip it over just to make sure that I'm getting it correct as well. But I will make sure he's able to answer the questions. We work on a mastery grading scale, which means we don't move on from one section until we've mastered it, and then we will move on. So by the time he finishes this book, I will know that he has a good understanding of American history, and I will grade him according to, his participation, his willingness to do his schoolwork, his attitude, overall, and, how well I think he understands this, which should be pretty good since we do work on the mastery level. So I will flip to, this is a pretty big section. Units 3 and 4, it is pretty big, and I feel as though, hold on, let me see where units 4, I feel like this is, we skipped ahead a bit, so I actually need to move my things. So I believe unit 4 stops right around, yes, so I'm actually going to move that now while I'm looking at it. So this is what units 3 and 4 look like. This is what 2 units look like, and actually you can see it's color-coded now that I look at it. And so it is quite a bit of information, and I'm just going to kind of flip through so that you can see some of the other pages, but since I did the one unit, you can kind of already tell. But here's kind of the rest of it. There are maps and doodles, and there you have it for that book. So the next book that I do want to talk about is a reference book. It's a picture reference book. It's by the Smithsonian. It's Timelines of Everything. Now this is history in general. It's all encompasses parts of all history, not just American history. So what I do, and I just kind of want, hopefully you can see this, I use Post-it notes, and I go through ahead of time, and I Post-it note where, what we're going to be using. So if I turn to here, it says American History 1, so I know that's not for this unit. American History 1 again. Oh, here we go, American History 2. So this is Birth of the U.S. And so it kind of goes over the Boston Massacre, independence, crossing the Delaware, Yorktown, the American Constitution. And so this all pertains to the American Revolution. And so this is a timeline. And so this will be a great resource for our unit. The next, this is a painting, I believe. It's Crossing the Delaware River. It's George Washington, a very important event during the American Revolution, so we'll be discussing that. This is also American History too. This is about the Industrial Revolution, and it looks like a timeline, so we will cover that as well. And let's see. This is still American History too. Oh, the U.S. frontier and the frontier wars. So again, just another reference. And then when we get to the next one, it says American History 3, and we can see that it's about the Civil War, so I know that this is for our next unit. So then I would stop there. Now these next two books are also reference books. I actually have a lot of reference books. We like pictures and reference books within our homeschool, but we are going to talk about, actually I want to talk about this one first, I think. Okay, so this is called The History Book. It's by Miles Kelly. I will link everything down below. This one in particular, there was a series of these. They were at Costco, but they are also on Amazon. And there's one about the earth, and one about science, another one about animals, I believe. This one is the history. And just like the last book that I showed you, it's different parts of all history, and so it's not just American history. I have not post-it noted this one yet. I haven't gone through, but I will just kind of flip through. The illustrations are pretty fantastic, and so I just kind of want to flip through, and I'll stop at a couple just parts so that you can kind of see sort of, what it looks like. And I can do an update video, a brief update video on, different books and how we use them once we actually get through the units. But there you have it. Wonderful photographs and illustrations in there. Now this one we will use pretty extensively throughout our American history units this upcoming year. This is America's Monuments, Memorials, and Historic Sites. And so this is all photographs from museums and reenactments and things from American history. And so everything in this book pertains to American history. And so I'm sure we will use this quite a lot. I do like that it has the reference, so I know what all is in it. We can sort of reference things quickly, especially if we have a question about something or want to see something. This touches on just about everything. Anything you could kind of think of regarding American history, I am pretty confident will be in here, so I can kind of come through and just sort of look it up and flip to that page. But I will show you the photographs just so that you kind of can see. This book, I've actually had my mother purchased this for my sister and I when we were in, I don't know, middle or high school, and so we've had it for a very long time. It is still in print. I will link it below. You can find it on Amazon. And I guess it's reference books in general are kind of the next best thing to going to a museum if you're not able to actually get to the museum. So we love them for that reason. It's your ability to kind of see things that you would find in a museum. So we'll just kind of quickly flip through. That's a gorgeous page. I absolutely love that. So there you go. Okay. The next type of, the next type of books that I want to talk about, although I believe there are some more reference books in here. Let me look through really quick. Okay, so in here I actually have a mixture of picture books that most people would typically think are for younger children, or because they're picture books that a younger child would be able to sit through and find interest in most of these. And then I also have some more reference books that we'll talk about as well. This first book that I want to talk about is The Picture Book of Lewis and Clark. Now, with picture books, I love them personally because when you're starting your day, we like to use these as kind of our opener, these or a game or read alouds in general. That's how we like to open, and then we'll get into what I call the meat of our day, like what is the main thing that we're learning, and then we move into projects and things to help really keep my son engaged with what we're learning and things. And so read alouds and games are kind of our openers with our main lesson time. So this one is A Picture Book of Lewis and Clark. It is by David A. Adler, and I do like the photographs in here. There is quite a bit of text, so there's a lot of information. The illustrations are amazing. I think they're gorgeous, and I think that this is a great addition, but because of how much text, this essentially is a book that we can read as an opener on one particular day, or we can even break it up into two if we wanted to, or whatnot. But really, this is something we can read in just as an opener on one particular day that we're learning about Lewis and Clark. And so this is a very quick read, and we like books that are a quick read as our opener. So the next book is a picture book also. This is nonfiction. I believe the other one was too. I haven't read it in a while, so I can't remember. But I believe that was a nonfiction as well. This one is nonfiction. It's kind of a reference book, but it's not as much information or not as big and expansive as some of the other huge reference books. But as you can see, there is a lot of information still, but it's definitely one that we can read it easily, or we can pull things that pertain to what we're learning about that particular day. So there's lots of different ways that we can get through that. And there are some photographs and some illustrations and maps, and it's kind of a combination of both. Paintings, so that will be a great addition. Now, another book that pertains to pioneer days and the Oregon Trail, and also the Mormon Trail will be part of what we learn about. So this book will tie in great with that part of it also, and it's Daily Life in a Covered Wagon. And it's by Paul Erickson. Great addition to help get a better understanding of what it would be like to be a pioneer. So I'll just kind of flip through. And so as you can see, again, quite a bit of information. There's a mixture. Well, it looks like it's mostly photographs. This one is a painting, I believe. So this is, again, the next best thing to go into a museum. So there you have it. Okay, the next one is a reference book, and it's specifically about the American Revolution. It's by Eyewitness, and I will flip through. So this is a reference book that we will use throughout the whole thing. So when we read part of our textbook and we get to a specific part, we can come to this and reference things and read more about it and more details and pull more, more information in from there. There's that. Now the next book is A More Perfect Union, The Story of Our Constitution by Betsy Maestro. I believe I have a couple books by her. This is a new book to me, and so I have not read it yet, so I'm actually not sure. It looks like there's quite a bit of information, but I'm not sure if it's historical fiction or if it's nonfiction. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of information, so I actually believe that this is a nonfiction book, but in an update video, I can kind of let you know for sure. The next book is George versus George, The American Revolution as Seen from Both Sides. It's by Rosalind Shanzer. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. And the illustrations in here are wonderful. This one is quite lengthy as far as the text. This is not one that we would probably get through in a day for sure, but there are like sections, and so for a period of a week we can read like 1 or 2 sections, and this would be a read aloud in the morning. So this would be one that we would read aloud, and it would take us a couple days, week tops, to get through. And then the next one is Remember Valley Forge, Patriots, Tories, and Redcoats Tell Their Stories by Thomas B. Allen. And this one, again, a lot of these books in this particular main lesson block are new to us. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this book is stories, like first-hand accounts from journals and things like that. And I believe they do put in here, who it was from, but I think a lot of this is like letters and kind of a compilation of those sort of things, so it's like first-hand accounts, but don't quote me on that because I haven't actually read it yet. But the paintings and illustrations and things in here are absolutely gorgeous. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is Boston Tea Party by Pamela Duncan Edwards. And this book is actually sort of, I don't know if I'd call it a poem, but it starts out with one sentence, and then there are these little mice down here who are throughout the whole story, and they have their own commentary going on. But every page will repeat the first sentence, and then it adds on another sentence with more commentary from these mice, who are adorable, by the way. So this one, like even my 2.5-year-old will most likely sit through this and enjoy it and think it's fun, even though he won't understand really what's happening or the content. It's something he'll grow into, but he'll enjoy it just for the story purpose. My 15-year-old will, obviously take from it what it's meant to, to explain and whatnot. But so again, this is, the sentences from previous, and then it adds on. And so I'll just kind of go through and show you some of the illustrations in here. The illustrations are really nice and bright and vibrant, and I love that. And then you've got the little whimsical mice who just have this whole extra story going on and their own commentary, and they are so adorable. I'll just kind of quickly go through if I can. Sorry. And there you have it. Oh, and then we have a timeline, which is also great. Okay, so the next type of book that I want to talk about are chapter books. Sometimes we read chapter books that are easier, and sometimes we read ones that are a little more complicated. I'm not sure what the let's see, ages 8 to 12. So I'd say 4th or 5th grade reading level is where this one is. It was in the young readers section, I believe. But it is called Sophia's War, A Tale of the Revolution. It's by Avi. Avi also wrote one of my favorite books, which also would pertain to this, but my son's already read it, and it's called The Fighting Ground. And he loved that book, so I'm very confident that he's going to like this one too. We haven't read it yet, but we will read this as a read aloud. We'll read a couple chapters at the beginning of, what we're doing. And there are no pictures. The text looks to be sort of large spaced. I mean, it's not fine print or anything. It's definitely larger print. And so this won't take us too long to get through. I'm not sure exactly how long it'll take. So it looks like there's about 70 chapters. So I don't know, maybe for us, since we're just going to do it as a read aloud, a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks tops, and that's if we're reading it really slow. The next category of things that I want to talk about is board games. So these two I actually already talked about in my last video, so I'm actually going to make it quick, otherwise this video is going to get very long. But these two right here are from The Good and the Beautiful. You can just, they have a curriculum, and I already explained in the last one that we used to use their curriculum, but they're year-long curriculums, and you have to do every day, and we actually do a 4-day school week because on Wednesdays we do co-op and we visit a local farm, and we help out on the farm. So it was really hard for us to get through it, and we like doing unit studies and main lesson blocks, or this year we did a block schedule that was kind of a hybrid where he would do one subject every day and it would be on a rotation. Next year we are doing actual unit studies and main lesson blocks that he'll do one subject for 3 to 6 weeks, and then we'll move on to something else, and then do it that way. So we love the games. We personally, the curriculum itself doesn't work for how we like to do our schooling, but their curriculum is excellent. If you learn that way or want to learn that way, I definitely recommend The Good and the Beautiful. So anyways, this is just a game board, and you would roll the dice and move your person, and whatever you land on, you would read. I think there's like 3 questions on each one, and you would read it. And if you get it right, then you would get a token, and or you can read multiple. There's several different game instructions here. And this is all of history. It's world history and American history, and there's different parts that they touch on. And the reason why is because The Good and the Beautiful, their history curriculum is a 4-year curriculum, and every year they get through the beginning of history to more current history, but they stop in different areas. And so this is year 1 history course board game. And so whatever areas that particular year stopped on is where they're going to stop here. And but he did world history this year for 9th grade, and so next year is American history. So any world history things from here will just be a review from what we did this year, and that is great also. The next thing is Explorers and Settlers history game. Again, The Good and the Beautiful. This is from their year 2 history curriculum, and we did both of these games. We are in my other video because we are doing them for colonial America. The keys of history will be all throughout our entire, all of our history main lesson blocks. This one in particular will just be for colonial America, and the second one, which is our Revolutionary War, American Revolution part. So, but basically the way that this game works, there are cards that explain something unique about some people, and then there's all of the people cards, and I'll just kind of show you, just quickly what some of those look like. And the illustrations are wonderful, and so you have to guess who the explorer or settler is that they're talking about on the card, and if you get it correct, then you would get, well, there's different ways to play this one as well, but you can get points, or you can try to beat your score and get more, do it faster or get more of them depending on how long you're playing. So there are different ways to play, but these are a great tool to use for that. Now the next ones are kind of a duo. This is the Oregon Trail card game, and if anybody grew up or went to school in like the 90s like me, you probably remember playing this game on the computer. Our green screen with the little pixelated characters, and they do make it look pixelated on the cards as well, to kind of bring it back to the 90s. So we actually play this game all the time, so I actually haven't even erased it, but you make up names, fun names that are time period or creative or whatever you want to do, and then you get trail cards, and they're everybody starts out with some trail cards. You have 6 at a time, and basically when you lay them out like this, they're all going to be in a line, so you do need a pretty long space to do them, but you can stack them eventually. But like on this card, if I had, let me think, if I had this card in my hand and I had, say, I'm trying to find a different kind, and I had this one in my hand and say this one in my hand, I would have to match up. Like this card I could lay down this way and you can lay it either way, but the paths have to match. So like this one doesn't work that way and it doesn't work this way because the paths don't match, so I couldn't place this card down. This one does not work this way, but it could work this way. So basically, when you place one down, you can place a path down. Sometimes there's things that happen when you place one down. It'll tell you to roll the dice and you could lose a supply, or you know, have to draw a calamity card. And let me just show you quickly what those look like. The calamity cards look like this. If you have to draw one, like this one says typhoid, you have typhoid, and it'll tell you what supplies you need to get better. Sometimes you will find a card that has no way to get better whatsoever, just like in the original game. Dysentery, you have dysentery, you have died of dysentery. So sometimes you get those ones and you're just like, well, great. And so I actually was laughing so hard when we picked up the extension, because I'll actually show you in a minute what it says. It's hilarious. But the other thing before I move on are supplies. Everyone starts out with some supplies. There are times that you would can draw another supply, but there's clean water, food, spare parts, oxen. There's some other things as well, but those are the main ones. And so it's just a mixture of having drawing the right cards and avoiding certain calamities. The more people you start with, the more chances that you'll make it to where you're going, because there are sudden moments of somebody passing away from the calamity cards. Now this was hilarious to me. So on this, when we picked this up, I'm like, oh great. There's like I said, in this one, there's actually quite a few cards that are like no redemption whatsoever. Like, nope, sorry, you passed away, you got bit by a snake or whatever. And this one says features 5 new ways to die with an exclamation point. I was just like, oh, that's wonderful, because it wasn't hard enough to get through this game the last time. And I don't, if you guys remember the original game from the 90s on the computer, I don't think I ever made it to, you know, the end of that one either, and so they made this equally as hard. This one just has some additional supplies. It also brings into this hunting, and so you have hunting cards. I don't even know if there are any trail cards. There's not. So you can play this by itself, but you wouldn't be actually trying to get somewhere. I think there's like a whole other mission if you play this by itself, or you can mix this game with this game and have it be an extension, and so you can play it alone, or you can play it with the other one just to make it you know, more things going on in the game. So we have played this one a lot, and so we have not played this one yet, but my son loves this game. He thinks it is the best. I don't know why. It is fun, but definitely over some of our other games, I find it interesting that he loves this so much. So he is going to be very excited to bring in some new elements to that game. Now the very last thing that I want to talk about are projects. I have 2 project books here. The first one is The American Revolution for Kids, and it does have a lot of pages of history, and then within those history pages, you know, like the history, I'll just kind of flip through just a little bit. So it talks about the Tea Party, which is great that it starts with the Tea Party, because we would have already kind of started covering this in our last unit, and so this is at the beginning, so that is wonderful for us. And then you will get to here where it has an activity, and it says Liberty Tea Punch. And so it has ingredients to make your own Liberty Tea Punch. And so this is just a quick kitchen activity, but it will make, you know, we can drink our Liberty Tea Punch while let's see, it calls for raspberry tea. Now we actually don't drink tea, but we do drink some herbal teas, so we'll make that work. But it'll be fun to drink our herbal tea while we're learning. So, and then you've got some other wonderful illustrations, and then some more, history. And then our next activity says a sampler, and it talks about colonial girls making samplers, which are a piece of cloth decorated with needlework. And so this is a chance that my son will start exploring some embroidery. I don't know if that's something that he'll enjoy. If it is, then we can do it more later, but regardless, we can at least kind of explore it a little bit and have some fun with that. And then I'm just going to kind of flip through, and we will do as many of the activities as we can. We try to do an activity every day so that we keep it, hands-on. We like doing a lot of handwork type things along with our learning. My son seems to learn a lot better with a mixture of hands-on and auditory, read-alouds and games and things like that. So there's that wonderful addition. And the next one is Explore the Wild West with 25 Great Projects, and it is by Anita Yasuda. And this is similar to the other book. So Explore the Wild West talks about words to know, give some information. Where is it? This one looks like a lot less information than the other series of, the American Revolution for Kids book. This one looks like a lot less information, but it'll be a quicker read, and it looks like there is still quite a bit of information, and so we can learn quite a bit from that. I'm not really seeing any projects yet. So let's see, map your own Lewis and Clark route, talks about supplies, so I guess this would be the project. And then make your own Jefferson Peace Medal, so there's another project. That looks like it would be a fun one. And then we've got some more information pieces, and then some more projects. So it looks like a pretty good mixture. This one will be a lot easier. Oh, there's like a lot of projects all right in a row, so that is cool. There are quite a bit. So this is going to be a great addition too, especially to our, westward expansion part of this main lesson block. And there you have it. That is everything that I have. My next video is going to be also about about American history. It'll be about our third main lesson block, which will cover primarily the Civil War. And then I'll have another video about our American history main lesson block that is going to cover both of the World Wars and the Great Depression, primarily with, bringing us up to some more current as far as we can get. And then I also am going to be putting out some more videos here pretty shortly that are going to cover our other subjects and how we're going to put together those units and main lesson blocks. But those include geometry, chemistry, geology, Spanish, creative writing, and then what our morning basket, what his daily work basket is going to include. I believe that's all of the main things that he has, and that all of those things we are incorporating as much Waldorf inspiration into those. And so I am getting really excited to start filming those. So those all should be coming out within the next couple weeks. That's going to be what all of my videos are for the next couple weeks, is just trying to get through all these curriculum. So I hope you liked this video. I hope you were able to find some things that maybe you can include in your child's homeschool, curriculum for in the future. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.